boys and girls. We are back with episode 2 of
Trapped Under Plastic.
I am your host, John, and joining me is
Scott,
who is also a host.
often known as a co-host. I'm kind of curious.
So we did it. We got one under our belt, and we're back for round 2.
Round 2.
Ready for more. And we got a real interesting topic today, but before we get to that, I feel like there's something else we should talk about.
Yeah, and that something is that this podcast can be found on all places where you can find podcasts. What are they? Apple stuff? Google stuff? Stitcher?
Facegram?
All the places where you can find it, okay? Our podcast host takes care of that stuff for us. And also, we publish this podcast every other Monday. So if you're watching this on a Monday, you won't get another episode next Monday, but you will the one after that.
That's right.
Okay, with all those details out of the way, let's start the actual podcast. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, there's
damn
the
it.
meat and potatoes again.
We gotta cut the meat and potatoes.
Before we get into the thick of it, is that any better?
That's
Of our question that you will likely have seen in the title of this podcast already, let's discuss what we've painted in the last 2 weeks. John?
I gotta go first again.
Do you want me to go first?
Poopy diapers. Yeah, you go first.
Okay. I painted a commission, a Tau commission, Commander Shadow Sun. I made a video about it.
Yes, you did.
Talking about the process of painting it, but also just some helpful things for commission artists to look out for when they're doing a commission. I'm not a professional commission artist. I don't do that for a living. But, you pick up a few things once you've done it a few times. So I made a video about learning that and painting it. And it was a fun process because this guy was like, here's a picture of a bowling alley. Make the paint scheme based on the colors in this bowling alley. And the bowling alley was secondary just to what colors were going on and what the palette was.
You didn't actually have to have him wearing
balls.
bowling shoes,
No.
bowling shoes.
No, thankfully not. But yeah, so that was fun. Got to paint. Use my favorite color, hot pink. Yeah, that's what I painted. Pretty much that's it.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like the freedom of not being emotionally attached to a mini when you're doing a commission piece? Maybe I should clarify the question. When I've done pieces, and it's not like I love this mini, this is for my army, this is my jam.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have more freedom to just kind of go with whatever works, go with what feels fun, and not be so tied to I have to do this way because if I'm going to do 60 other of my battle line troops that to be fit in a similar scheme, you just add all this other baggage.
Okay.
But if you're doing one dude, they give you inspiration. They give you, even if they give you a full exact color palette, you're just like, cool. I'm just not emotionally connected to this miniature. Is that a help to you?
Okay. I'm going to try to answer the question that you're asking, which is painting a miniature with no emotional attachment versus just doing a commission. I don't like doing commissions. I'll probably do less of them. But painting a model that I'm not emotionally attached to. I think a healthy mixture is good. I think that it can almost be a palate cleanser for when you are more emotionally invested in something. Because obviously the downside of being emotionally invested in something is that if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, you're going to be upset.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, yeah, if I don't paint it well, then maybe I'll get upset. But my perception of what a good miniature is oftentimes is a lot different than the person I'm painting for.
Sure.
You know how it's easy to impress someone who has no idea how to paint miniatures with a model. They're like, holy cow, you painted the eyes? And it's like, dude, some people put eye reflections in eyes that are 28 mil scale. So it's a lot easier to impress people who aren't painting it and know all the problems with it. I think so. To answer your question, I think a healthy mixture is probably good.
You touched on something there that I recently kind of dealt with as well in a conversation that I had with Vince Venturella, which is just name dropping right here.
Name dropping the Vincy.
Yeah, Vincy V. I'm the only person that calls him that. I don't think he likes it.
You didn't react at all when you said that?
It was just like this look of I shouldn't acknowledge and maybe it'll go away. So therefore I'm going to keep twist in the dagger, see what happens.
A-Rod and Vincey V.
Yeah, I have nicknames for everybody that nobody else uses. But he said something that like resonated with me, and he said that it's really good to use a back and forth mentality. Like you do a competition piece or something you're really invested in, and then after you do that, you do something you don't care about, or just like knock out something for fun, knock out something for your army that you're not gonna just slave over and then go back. Like that healthy back and forth really helps you stay on track and continue to paint.
Yeah,
without being so slogged down. So.
I appreciate Vincey V's approach. I 100% agree. Right now, at the moment, I am painting things I don't care at all about too much, and I need to paint a project. I think I told you this.
Yeah.
I need to paint something that I give a shit about.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about anything I've painted in the last 5 months. So the paint job reflects that.
Yeah.
So I need a little bit more of that. I'm emotionally invested in this model. But yeah, a mixture is good. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I painted. What did you paint?
Oh boy. Well, I painted a cloak on a necromancer. So I kit back.
A whole cloak.
Just the back, not even the front, not the underparts.
Wow.
So going back to last episode, like this was my like Chimera color testing version deuce, where I'm like, I'm going to use just Chimera paints on this whole necromancer that I kit bashed, and I'm really kind of dig the model that I made. And so I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna make him look badass. I use a necromancer in like every one of my death armies because he's a badass unit. And so I'm like, I'm gonna do it all Chimera. I did the cloak. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do this Chimera mixing all the colors thing. Oh man, because like then I realized like I did all these funky mixtures and finally got this like kind of reddish purplish tone. It was just really cool in the shadowy part of the cloak. And maybe I should post this picture of the cloak on Instagram so then people can reference this. And then I went like the next day to do the inside of the cloak. I had to remix that color again.
Oh no.
I was like, there was like 7 colors that I used to make this, and it was just all by eye.
Yeah.
Nothing was noted or measured.
Okay.
So much for that.
And by the way, if you're confused when John said he talked about Chimera last episode, it was part of the extended version of the podcast. We talked about new things that we've tried and experimented with. John talked about Chimera paints.
Yep.
I talked about making frozen water at scale.
Not frozen waffles.
Not frozen waffles. Just very important distinction. But so if you're curious, you want to hear the extended version, that is a thing we offer on our Patreon that you can check out, linked in the show notes.
God, that was a great transition.
I know, wasn't I? Just saved you.
You did.
People are like, what? You didn't mention Chimera paints. Give us money and you can figure out why. So yeah, did you paint anything else other than a single cloak?
I got my order in from Creature Caster. And by order, I mean they sent me all my goodies from winning Resin Beast last year. And they gave me all sorts of goodies. And the beautiful, beautiful Peter of Creature Caster.
Peter's beautiful.
He is. What a beautiful, shiny man. Glistening. And he sent me the full range of their new paint colors too, because they just
version 2
bought out version 2. And
wow, you have version 2?
I got version 2.
You're fancier than me.
Yeah,
I have version 1.
I got the full set. Like now, when I put them on a rack, all the Creature Caster Monument paints on one rack, it's like legit. It's like they got a range now.
Are the bottles easier to squeeze?
No, that's the first thing I checked.
Peter.
It's the first thing I checked, and they're the exact same bottles. I can live with it because I'm not a giant wimp, but
wow, I guess I'm a giant wimp.
Like your little flaccid fingers can't squeeze the bottles enough.
My bones break.
You're Mr. Glass. So I got all that, and I started putting together, washing my piece that I plan to do for Resin Beast 2020.
Getting rid of that mold release.
Oh yeah, but honestly, I feel my other Creature Caster ones that I've painted, I've never done this step.
Yeah.
And I never felt the need to. They don't have a really strong mold release on there. So
honestly, I've never had a model that's been like, this has mold release on it. It's like glistening or a little bit glossy. I've never seen that, but I've always just washed models. The other reason why washing models is good, after you've like filed them down and stuff is that you'll oftentimes have like dust and finger grease on it. So, or like little hangnails. Like, you know, when you scrape something, it's like you don't fully scrape it. It's like a little bit.
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. Oh, hangnail. That's a great description of
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah. Just grab your toothbrush. It's kind of, toothbrushes are kind of a little bit aggressive, just enough to be able to knock all that crap off. So it doesn't get kind of stuck to the model when you prime it down.
I think like this is maybe a whole nother topic for another day, or maybe it's a video or something. That
It's something.
mini painting wives' tales.
Wives' tales. Okay.
Yeah, like oh, you gotta wash your mini first,
Yeah, you know?
because otherwise you're just gonna fuck it up and it's not gonna work. I got another one. You have to prime your mini.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
That's bullshit. Well, it depends. I haven't formally tested this yet, but I mean, I know people who don't prime their miniature. David Soper is one, but he only paints stuff for competition where the model is never touched.
I think it's all.
So he just, it's about eliminating a layer of paint so you can get the crispiest detail.
I did a commission for a guy. I've painted every Warhammer Underworlds expansion for him, and he plays the game like, oh man, I hope he doesn't listen to this. He plays the game like a lot. He's very competitive in the game.
Okay.
And I painted every one of his warbands, and I never primed a single mini, and I never told him.
Really? Could you varnish it?
Nope.
Oh, no.
That's another thing.
You should probably do
BS.
that. No, it's not.
It's BS.
I mean, at the very least, it's another layer of something before the paint.
It's BS.
You're not spraying on water.
It's BS.
If it was water, it'd be BS.
BS.
Okay.
It's okay. Here's why I
It's
feel this
something.
way.
It's something.
Here's why I feel it's unnecessary. It's because of the plastic. If they were pewter, 100% agree.
Sure.
Even if they were resin, agree because of the brittleness. But something about the GW plastic, it's not bendy, but it's not super firm. It has enough of a give to it where it's not. The paint is adhered and it's not as likely to chip or to flake. Flaking isn't really a thing. It's more of a chipping thing. And I have dropped plastic minis on the hardwood floor with no varnish.
It's not about the drops. It's about the Dorito fingers.
Oh, dude.
And I have a story.
Oh,
I rub paint off of my models, my GW ones, as I paint them with my fingers.
Because your paint isn't cured yet.
I know, but still.
That doesn't equal.
Can you not agree to the fact that a layer of varnish is essentially, it's not, but you can think of it as a layer of clear paint. It's one more barrier before the paint.
Sure.
So what's the harm in that?
I don't like what it does to my paint job.
Oh, come on.
My paint job is so crispy.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, it is when you try, but for like a commish,
Yeah.
come on. For a gaming commish?
Come on, man. You're right.
I hit that Commander Shadow Stone with like 3 layers.
Wow.
I do 2-to-1 satin varnished and matte varnished Vallejo.
Here's what we learned is that if you're going to get commission work done, get it from Scott and not from me.
Right.
Because
it lasts.
I will just, mine will barely make it to your front door.
It'll be there, but I'm concerned that over time you may start to see some of the underlying plastic. Unless he does it right and only touches the base, but no one does that.
Nobody does that.
That's what the base is there for, people. Touch the base. Don't touch the frickin' model.
Yeah, but Tester's dull coat is like $4, and I'd spend like $12 more worth of Tester's dull coat to varnish all of those, and that's cutting into my profits.
Really? You that much varnish?
Yeah.
It goes pretty far.
Does it?
I think it does. Well, I don't use Tester's. I use it out of the can sometimes.
Yeah. I don't like running.
I only do 1 layer of the aerosol stuff, but if it's airbrush stuff, then I'll put on a few layers.
I don't like running it through the airbrush because it just destroys your airbrush.
So you got to be fancy like me and have multiple airbrushes.
I just bought one. I just bought a second one for this
Welcome
purpose.
to the world.
It's a Masters like dumpified
yes.
$15 one.
Masters.
It's great for because I started doing a lot of enamels through the airbrush.
Okay.
And I'm like, I am not destroying my Sotar 2020 by throwing enamels through there.
Right.
And
Would that destroy an airbrush? Is this more mini painting wives' tales? Just like metallic paint destroys my paintbrushes?
Yeah, that's not, God damn it. We got it. We're on to something.
I mean, I do this on YouTube, right? I myth bust sometimes, don't I?
No, you are full of shit. I have all the golden nuggets here. See, now everyone can listen to them right now instead of having you steal them later.
It's okay. You can do those ideas. You'll just do it worse than me.
Zing! Oh, no. It only took us an episode in like 10 minutes to really get to what this relationship is going to be like.
Yeah. Just seething envy.
All right. Enough of what we painted. Let's get on to the topic
Yes.
of le day.
The topic is, if there were a perfect miniature painting competition, what would it look like?
Ooh. Now, I think we probably have to have a caveat with this is we're saying this because we don't feel such a thing exists today currently, right?
Not even close.
Not even close. No, which is why, all right, let's talk the utopian mini painting society.
But first, we talk about the ones that exist and how they fall short of the glory.
Okay, so let's just rip people to shreds.
Yeah.
And then we build them up anew.
I feel a little bit better about ripping to shreds. No, I'm not even going to say it. But we can talk about what exists. What we know. Like, I've never been to SMC. I've never been to Monte San Savino. I've been to Crystal Brush. I've been to Golden Demon, and I know how they work enough to be able to criticize them. And John has some very strong opinions about Everchosen, which I don't. I know of how it works, and it's a cool idea, but I didn't get into like the details. I didn't do the voting or anything like that, but you did.
I spent like an hour and a half.
Oh boy.
And I didn't get through all the minis.
Okay, so let's talk about the problems. And maybe we can be general and specific in other certain cases.
I say we talk about problems in general and then maybe highlight examples of painting competitions that fall under that critique.
Okay, sure. I think a big problem is consistency in judging. And the problem with that is that obviously it's impossible to quantitatively judge art, but so many people do it outside of literal art. Like if you think about the Olympics, how do you judge figure skating, right? Obviously you land jumps or you don't land jumps. That's hard and fast. But there's form, there's like the whole routine as a whole, how it's composed. There's so much that goes into it.
They have like a category that's called like creative expression.
Yeah, what? No. So that is judged on an incredibly competitive level of the freaking Olympics. Yeah. Okay? It's a thing people do. So we can't use this excuse in miniature painting where it's like, it's impossible to judge art. It's like people do it at a very high level. We need to be better at it.
Well, like, I mean, there's a reason that Rotten Tomatoes is a thing, right? A film is a piece of art, and yet that still has a statistical number attached to it.
Film critiques are a thing. Food critiques are a thing.
Yep.
So let me explain further what I mean by consistency. I think it's hard. Like, for instance, when you get a score, or you do place at a painting competition, and you go and you ask a judge, "Hey, what was the feedback, the critique on this piece so I can do better next year?" They tell you these things that are kind of just strange and off the wall sometimes. And it's like, okay, what's your measurement system? Like, why was that important? And why did that knock me down?
Right.
So I think what we need is very specific things, a very specific metric, a rubric that is followed by every single judge. Yep. And then every single judge will talk about, as a panel, a piece, talk about their scores, write down their justifications. And then, this is the crazy part, make that justification public. To everyone.
Yeah.
Like when I give a score in figure skating, I hold up a number. Everyone in the crowd can see it. Mm-hmm. Okay? I don't know if they give a justification, but
they have written justifications, but that's not necessarily public knowledge. But
okay. Well, maybe it doesn't need to be public, but your name as a judge should be attached to it because your reputation as a judge should be on the line. Because if it isn't on the line, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Right. Yep. If it's all behind the veil, suddenly, whether you're consciously doing it or subconsciously doing it, you have this layer of protection to just go with what my gut is instead of having to explain it.
Or if you're a Spanish judge, maybe you'll subconsciously prefer Spanish painters.
We were just using Spanish there completely arbitrarily.
Are we? Wait, I don't have anyone in mind right now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. Me neither.
I'm being serious.
Oh.
We'll talk about this later.
All right.
Okay. I mean, I know there are Spanish judges at Crystal Brush. It must be something there. But that is something that may happen that people may not intend for just because they have that veil of privacy. So just eliminating that entirely just makes it that much more fair.
All right, I think I have a real world example of this that no one's going to care about.
It's a great joke.
It just gets better every time. This is our third take on this.
Damn dogs.
Scott laughs every time. So in high school, I was in speech. Speech is a competitive extracurricular event, much like sports, but for nerds. And so every Saturday morning, we had to get up and go to the speech meet. And for this, you have a speech that you memorize with an 8-minute time limit and a bunch of different categories, just like in miniature painting. And you would go to your rounds, and you had 3 total rounds in the meet, and you had one judge. It was a different judge for each round. And they had their full sheet for everyone that competed in your category. And you got a score for each of the, I think it was 5 different areas out of 10. And not only did they have to then tally your total score, but they had to give justification reasons for why they gave you each score. So they had to be able to put into words why it wasn't perfect, or if it was a 10 out of 10, which was extremely rare, why was it perfect?
Right.
And then at the end, they tally all 3 judges' scores, and you get back that sheet at the end of the event. So not only was your final placing based on that, but you also got to look at the words that they wrote and use that to get better next time. I judged a local, like, just new painters competition, and I instituted a very similar, very straightforward kind of competitive sheet system that there too. And I gave that back to every one of the contestants, and they loved it. They thought that it would help them improve, and it gave them justification for why they got the score they got. Why can't something like that be implemented?
I have no idea. Maybe it is, but they just don't publicize it.
If you can stand behind the work you're putting in as a judge, there should be no reason why you can't share it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Maybe CB judges have a rubric. They just don't share it.
Yeah.
I doubt it, because why wouldn't you just give that to the painter instead of me needing to go up and ask you and you remember from like memory what my piece was and what you thought about it?
And when I've done that, they like look at my piece for a minute or two before they
to
give
get
me
a
feedback.
little, jog the memory. Yeah,
I get that if, there's 10 pieces per category and 10 categories, it's 100 miniatures. I mean, I don't expect them to mentally on point remember everything.
But if you got a sheet, you don't need to remember anything. You got it all right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Do we know of any place that has done that? Do we know of any competition that uses that kind of system?
No, but that doesn't mean that there isn't one, because there are a lot of painting competitions out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the first thing I dislike about the competitions that I'm aware of is just consistency, and also what we touched on was transparency in judging and judges.
So I think another one that we need to discuss is the public vote.
Jeez.
And this, not that it doesn't have a place. I guess if we go back to the Rotten Tomatoes example, you have the breakdown of the critic scores and then public scores as well. So you can see the two. But quite often, there is quite a bit of difference.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with, and it's even worse than using the Rotten Tomatoes example, because if I see the public scores is high, that means that they really enjoyed the movie. Well, it's a good chance I'm going to enjoy it. But if they don't have the years of training and the eye for what makes one piece better than the other, just I like the model, right? We're not dealing with a blank canvas here. I like the model. It's the new hotness. That's the same chapter as my Space Marine Army. He gets a 10 out of 10 for sure. Like there's so many factors involved.
Yeah, but all those factors apply to movies too. Like I like vampires. I'm going to like 30 Days of Night and all these things more because I like vampires. So it applies there too. I don't know. In regards to public vote, it's like it changes the way you paint in a competition.
Yep.
Like you were saying, you want to paint miles are the new hotness because people are going to prefer those whether they do it intentionally or they do it not intentionally. So it means that you can't paint whatever you want. And at the end of the day, I would say that's probably an overall negative thing. If you don't care about winning, then you'll paint whatever you want anyways. But I think for the most part, if you're competing and you're a serious competitor, you'll compete to win. Some people say they enter just for the feedback, but you don't need to enter to get feedback at a con. You can walk up to any judge with your model or any professional painter and be like, "Hey, can I have feedback on this?" And 9 times out of 10, they'll give it to you. So you don't need to put your stuff in the case to get feedback. So I don't understand when people say that. But for a competition, if you're competing to win. If you're competing to win, you're going to paint Space Marine.
I also find it really weird that people, and I've heard that said, that people will enter to get feedback when in fact, if you just like enter a piece, you don't get any feedback.
No, you don't.
You have to actively go ask for feedback.
Yeah, which is what you have to do anyways if you weren't in the competition.
Right. I get that there's other values to entering a competition to push yourself, and those are totally legitimate.
For an end date.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
those are legitimate as well.
But the public vote is, there's just so much room for things to not go as planned.
Right. And also there's another layer here. Is the public vote an online public vote, or is it only in-person public vote?
Yeah. That's a good question too.
Right, because then you have a problem, right? The problem is the quality of the photography.
Yes.
And at Crystal Brush, they're pretty much always good. Yeah. There are sometimes Chris Tsuri's piece, the big Viking one, the framed one. He had 3 entries and all of his photos, I think, sucked, if I remember correctly. So it happens sometimes. But then you have Everchosen.
Yeah. So Everchosen is, I mean, until they get to the top 3, it's all online vote. So it's all of the store winners. And I was surprised to learn while I was spending an hour and a half trying to click through and vote on every one of these, that it wasn't just GW stores.
Yeah, no, yeah. LGS stores that are non-GW do it as well.
Yeah. And so the big problem there is like you said, it's the pictures. And if anyone goes out there and spends 2 minutes, you will quickly realize that there is such a vast array of quality of pictures.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good your paint job was. I can't tell.
I can't see it. Right.
And in Everchosen, they allow you to submit your own picture as well.
Oh, really?
Yep. So if you are a good painter and you set up the photography correctly yourself, you submit that picture, compared to the dude that runs the GW store that took it on his phone with the Everchosen winner like card as the backdrop.
Yeah, and like the fluorescent lights of the store.
There's no way you're going to win. There's no way that people can even tell how good or poor your paint job is.
Right. That is not a breeding ground for fair judging from public vote, even when public vote is already so misguided as is.
And I think one of my biggest problems with an online public vote especially is the reasoning behind it. The reasoning behind it is for publicity and for promotion of the company. It's not for the betterment of the artist or the spirit of the competition.
Yeah, and there's another thing that we'll talk about and related to publicity, but I think you're definitely right about that. They want people to share their entry, and you have to. If you want to play the game, you have to. You have to say, "Hey, I made it past Final Cut. I made it into this thing. Go vote for my thing. Here's a link to it. I do it.
Yeah,
of course I do it. That's probably the area I have the biggest advantage is with that, because I have a community that is exclusively online.
Yep.
So yeah, that's unfair. I have that. People don't have 100,000 subscribers, but I get to take advantage of that. That's stupid.
Yep.
No one should win for that reason. But you touched on something that I also want to touch on, is that Crystal Brush is beholden to sponsorships.
Right.
So every year it's a $10,000 prize pool. It's like $6,000, $3,000, $1,000 for first, second, third, and best in show. But then they also give like 50 or 100 or $150 to third, second, and first in each individual category.
Yeah.
Right?
So those numbers aren't exact, but that's pretty close.
Something like that, yeah. So that's cool. Not many competitions have a cash prize. Golden Demon somehow is able to cultivate a desire to get that trophy, but there is no cash prize. Kind of like the Olympics. Do you win money when you win an Olympic award? I don't think you do. I think you just get publicity and then you do like ads for Nike and like Snickers.
You get sponsorships is what you get.
Right, but do you get paid by the Olympic institution?
You get a lot of your. Well, here's the one thing that you get all your expenses paid to go to the Olympics whether you win or not.
Well, that's not payment. I don't pay my mortgage with an airplane ticket.
Yeah, but we still got to pay for the hotel room. We got to pay for gas. We got to pay for meals while we're at Adepticon.
Okay, well, if you want to talk about that, Olympians need to qualify to go to the Olympics. Do you want to qualify to go to CB?
Yeah, I do. If they're going to pay for my hotel.
Hell yeah. Okay, fine. Sure, let's do it. But okay, so my point with Crystal Brush being beholden to sponsors is that the prize pool every year is the same. And then they have to do things because they have sponsorships that need advertisement. They need to put their logo in every single freaking picture. Yeah. The public vote becomes more of an important thing because that's another way to advertise the competition and all the sponsorships.
And they're sending you to Crystal Brush's website to vote. So we're getting free traffic.
Right, yeah. So I am always a fan of homegrown solutions. An example of having a prize pool and a homegrown solution is most of these competitions occur at a convention.
Yeah.
Golden Demon happens at, what is their thing called now? Warhammer Day, Warhammer World, something like
Warhammer
that.
Fest?
Warhammer Fest. Used to be called
Games Day.
Games Day. Went to one, but that was it. And then obviously Crystal Brush happens at Adepticon. And I think we need to take a note out of esports' book here about how they fund their competitions. Dota TI just happened, the international. It's like the Super Bowl of video games. It isn't the highest paying video game tournament, but it is certainly up there. The prize pool is $33 million this year, $15 million going to the first place team. And you know how they got all that money? One, because it's Steam, it's Valve. But two, because when you buy cosmetics and other things in the game, Dota, a portion of that sale for the time around TI goes to the prize pool. So how do you do that with the convention? You take $2, $3, whatever, off of each con ticket, put that into a prize pool for the gaming tournaments and for the painting tournaments. And then you don't have any sponsors. And every year, if your competition is good, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Your prize pools go up and up and up. Your thing becomes more and more of an institution. No sponsors.
And the best part about that is the ecosystem that you create of everybody succeeding, everyone that's there for any reason, whether to play in a tournament, whether it's to go shopping, whether it's to take classes, whether it's to enter the painting competition, is all of those areas thrive. The other areas also thrive. Mm-hmm. Because the con is growing, and then your section of the con then gets more exposure, gets a bigger prize pool, going to get more people involved, more people are interested, more people will travel and come to it for those reasons.
Right. Absolutely.
So far, our list is no online voting, transparent judges scoring in writing, and a painting competition that is not beholden to sponsorship in order to fund itself and be successful.
Right. Absolutely.
So those are our big
You said
three.
no online voting. Do you mean no public vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Because online voting it's part of public vote, but it's also a different thing. Like the problem with Crystal Brush and Everchosen is that the technology available to online vote sucks.
Yeah. For some reason, Everchosen, I was shocked because I would think that they would be aware of the issues that Crystal Brush has had over the years in like simply being able to scroll through and vote and look at every mini in a certain category without taking 12 steps to do so.
Right.
But theirs was a lot of technical issues where it just wouldn't populate the next picture.
Wow, okay.
No next mini would show up. Or you'd click a star on a picture, and then the exact same mini would come up again, and you could vote again, give it however many stars you'd want, again, and then it would come up, and sometimes it'd be a new one. Sometimes it'd be a one from 2 minis ago. Sometimes it would be the same one multiple times in a row.
So they just didn't test this well enough.
Yeah, so it completely undermines the actual data that they're getting on who's got the best score.
Right, and also you were telling me it gave you no indication of how close you were to the end.
No, yeah, I still didn't see them all after an hour and a half.
Right.
And I have no idea how close I was
Right. Yeah.
to the end. I don't know how many actually total competitors there were.
Right. Okay. So for all the things that we dislike about these various painting competitions, there are some things that we also do like. From Crystal Brush, the fact that you can paint any miniature from any manufacturer you want.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna miss, because if you're unaware, this year at Adepticon was Crystal Brush's last real year. It's going to be a thing at Cool Mini or Not's convention, but it's not going to have the same prestige as it had at Adepticon. But the void got filled with Golden Demon, which is super cool because GD hasn't been in the United States since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's back, but the downside of GD is that you can only paint a Games Workshop model.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of other kind of, I don't know how much of it is true or just what people's thoughts are behind what is expected or what does well at Golden Demon competitions.
Right.
It's less about art. It's more about promoting their GW's products and what style they want to see.
See, I don't think that's entirely true. And I'm going to reference something kind of old, but once upon a time, there was someone who won a Slayer Sword with a Night Goblin, just like a basic Night Goblin. I don't even think it had any conversion work. And to me, that was like, holy cow, all they care about is the painting. And so that was super cool that someone could win it with such a basic model. And even this year, at Warhammer, what was it, Golden Demon Classic, the winner was a converted troll. And was the troll that new of a model? Or am I?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it's part of the Shadespire.
Troggoths. No, it was not the Shadespire one. It was of the re-release of the Loon Curse.
Okay. But, okay. I guess to kind of save face right now, it was a heavily converted model and not a particularly popular one. Night Goblins is popular because it just came out, but it's not like a Space Marine thing or something like a Chaos Space Marine thing or something popular like that. It's a Goblin thing.
He completely sculpted that base all by hand too, which was
really
freaking amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the quality of that, it looked like it was from a GW like terrain kit or something you'd kit bash, but it was all sculpted by hand. And in fact, somewhere online there is I think it's for some mini painting magazine or something that he did an article with PDF breakdown of how he sculpted that.
Figure painting magazine, ring a bell?
That's probably it.
Okay. Well, there's also a nice website that collects all the Golden Demon winners from the past. Not all of them, but a lot of them. We'll put that in the show notes so you can check it out. Because it's a pretty cool website to see all those ones that won that GD. But so to me, Golden Demon, when I ever compared it to Crystal Brush, was that Golden Demon was just all about the painting skill and the technicality. But what you're telling me is that maybe now it's more an avenue to advertise their new stuff. And if I painted a squat, I'd have no chance of winning because you can't buy that model anymore and because it's lame and old. And it's not just about the technique and the execution, but it's about the new and shiny stuff.
Yeah. And I don't think that's 100% true either. I was just kind of throwing that out there because that's the stuff you hear.
Okay.
Whereas it was last year that a Slann won the Slayer Sword?
Yeah.
And, that model has been produced in 15 years.
Right.
So I think it's just one of those going back to the old wives' tales things.
Maybe. People that are salty about people that win will make up all kinds of excuses for stuff.
Yep. Yeah, so that's certainly a thing. Although, I mean, one thing I like, not ever having competed in a Golden Demon, that I like compared to something like Crystal Brush is I don't have to worry about competing against some dream team sculptor painter duo.
Well, if conversion is allowed, you get some of that, but it happens so much less, if at all, at Golden Demon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good point.
The majority of the model has to be Games Workshop sculpt. And
you can't see, there's no custom sculpting category?
You can custom sculpt onto anything and convert anything, but it has to either be GW bits or completely handmade.
Right.
So you could take like the face of an orc and resculpt half of his body or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of when you're looking at the folks that do this high-end sculpting for competitive pieces, their style is not GW style. It wouldn't.
Right. It doesn't mesh with the catalog very well.
And usually they're big ass scale too.
Right. I remember back in the day, like in the early 2000s when Alfonso Heralda's Banshee, he won a Slayer Sword with a custom Trader Guardsman that he sculpted. So it's a possibility, but Crystal Brush had that was like an accepted thing, so it happened all the time. And that's not really a thing that happens a whole lot that I'm aware of at Golden Demon. So yeah, it is good that doesn't happen as much.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is tied to the public vote too. 'Cause I
and the money,
this,
and the money.
Yeah, right. Because then if you win your piece that is now going to be available for sale, that is sculpted first time ever seen at this competition.
Yep.
Now gets all this free publicity, and you get all the crazy votes because of the wow factor.
There's another thing. You can't tag team entries in a competition. Period.
Yeah.
If you can sculpt something and paint it like you're like Rafael Lapica, then you should win because you are that much more talented than I am. But you should not be able to tag team an entry. That is stupid.
Yep. It's
also, here's another thing. Do you have more to say about that?
no.
Just like, I mean, maybe I'm just salty because I don't have the access to people to do that. But that's dumb.
We just need those people.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I could pay someone to do it. I mean, like I know a sculptor and I could pay him, but I don't want to do that. Another thing is, would there be any value in having your entry like not attached to your name? You know, like I put, like you're not allowed to post about it on social media, and you put it in the case. You have to do it behind closed doors, and it just goes into the case. I mean, you can't avoid all of it. Some people will some people at the con will be like, "Hey, here's my thing. Check it out."
Right.
But if none of the judges know,
That would be pretty big.
yeah, that'd be huge.
Anonymous voting.
Anonymous entrance so that the judges don't know where stuff came from. It's impossible to avoid entirely.
Yeah.
But if someone made an effort, I think that could be really cool and also make the judging even more fair.
It's so hard in today's day and age with social media, though.
It is.
And not only to enforce, but if we're looking about being helpful for the artists, many of these artists are getting notoriety or getting building their own salary by building their brand, and some of that is sharing things like this.
Right.
And if you can't share a massive project like this until after it has been judging had been shown, that may be an issue.
Right.
But
You're going to be less inclined to want to work on stuff for that competition.
yeah, I'm worried about people not competing because of that.
Right. Well, then you got to make it worth it. You got to have that prize pool, baby.
The big bling bling.
If first place gets $10,000, you are going to work on it.
I think we can up it from there.
Oh, for sure. If it's linked to con ticket sales, you could for sure make that price skyrocket.
Yep. I think so. I think we got ourselves a wiener.
No, I think we do. Now we just need to make our own convention.
We just need a financial backer.
We just need someone who cares about all this stuff and can do it for us.
Yeah.
And we just tell them what to do and they do it all.
I just write it down in a notebook.
Yeah. Well, now it's on the internet, so now we can just listen to this hour and a half long podcast to remember what we thought.
Yeah, Elon Musk has got a notebook beside his...
Elon Musk?
Yeah, he's like, ooh, it's a very good idea.
That's not what he talks like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. That's a little bit closer. All right.
Elon Musk doesn't say I'm sorry.
No, he doesn't.
He says to the moon, bitches.
Okay, I think we talked about that topic a lot. I think we both have kind of a personal investment in it, so there wasn't as much joking as the first episode. Maybe me more so than John, because I've never won anything. 'Cause I'm a piece of garbage. But yeah, so what I'm saying is if competitions worked the way I wanted them to, I would win everything.
I think that needs to be the overarching addition. Asterisk, I need to win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, come on. As we stated before, I'm a tryhard.
Yeah.
So of course I need to win.
Right.
But on to the next segment of our podcast, the news segment.
News.
And on today's list, we'll briefly talk about this. there was a BattleTech Kickstarter that came out recently, and it hit 2.5 million in sales in the first 2 days.
That seems like a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Neither me or John play BattleTech, but one of my patrons brought this to my attention and said it was one of the top 10 grossing Kickstarters, I think, in the board game category, that's making waves.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But since we don't play that game, we don't have much to say about it, but other than to mention it as being maybe a little bit of a historic event.
I think that there's something to be taken away from that is in that it's a miniatures game more than this slog of kickstarting board games, which I'm as big a fanboy of all the Kickstarter mini included board games as the next guy. I just look through those and just salivate, even though I know I'm never going to paint all the shit that I've gotten from those games.
Right.
But the fact that we're getting into miniature games being so successful in Kickstarter might open up some doors further for other miniature war games to spread their wings and take a shot at the king.
Or having Kickstarters that are just exclusively miniatures for the sake of painting.
Yeah.
Those exist.
Yeah, they do.
That they do not do anywhere near as well as something that has a game attached to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when someone elevates the game, that elevates it for everybody in a sense.
Yep.
So that'd be cool to see that doing well. But the other thing that happened recently is Games Workshop end of life a bunch of old models, specifically dwarves, high elves, wood elves, empire stuff. And you can't buy it anymore. I know you can't buy any more the wood elves anymore.
No,
so all that stuff is gone.
They're like it was last chance to buy. So they put all this stuff on last chance to buy on their web store, and then within 48 hours everything was sold out. So I think it might have been less than that. It might have been 24 hours. Yeah. So it's like by last chance to buy we mean like it's too late already. It's already gone.
Right.
And that stuff is gone forever.
Forever, yeah.
And a lot of it was plastic kits. Yeah. Relatively recent plastic kits.
Stuff that looks okay still.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to. We're gonna bring up Vinny V again here. He did a little chat with this pleasant chap from New Zealand about that happening. He brought up a good point. Okay, at some points you need to call the range because it's hard to balance a game that has all of this stuff hanging on from so long. It's like baggage, you know?
The outliers, yeah.
Right. So I get that. That makes sense. But did it need to be so much? All my precious wood elves.
All like a lot of those kits are like really nice looking kits. Too.
Yeah, those wood elf characters. I mean, okay. Side note, I play wood elves, or I used to rather.
Rip.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about wood elves because that's what I liked. The characters in the wood elf line were freaking sick looking. They were cool. Yeah. And luckily I own most of them. I don't own a few, but they were really cool. Now they're all gone. You can't get them ever again. So it sucks. It sucks because, and maybe you can relate to this. I invested hundreds of dollars in a wood elf army, however many years ago, and if I could see into the future and know that these models will literally not be playable in 2020, maybe I would have picked a different army.
I think you probably would have picked a different army.
Because now I have this. I still love my army, and they look beautiful, and I'm happy to have them. But it's sad that I can't play in a current, up-to-date version of essentially Warhammer Fantasy with them. I have to play an old version. I got to find someone who's like, hey, you want to play the version 3.5 of Age of Sigmar? It's like, no, I want to play the new stuff, man. Like, leave me alone, you weirdo.
Why is he the weirdo? You're the one that still has the wood elf.
Oh, sorry, he was talking to me. I'm the weirdo. Yeah.
Oh, right. You're like, the guy.
I'm the crotchety old guy who can't move on. But it's like, I put all this freaking time into painting this army, and it just exploded in my face.
Yeesh. You're the guys.
You can't relate to this.
You're the guys that play 5th edition 40K.
Or 9th edition fantasy.
Eesh.
You ever heard of that?
I've heard.
That's a thing.
I don't ever want to go there.
Community developed rule set for Warhammer Fantasy. But yeah, not Age of Sigmar. Still use Square Base.
You know what's funny is that this happened.
9th Age.
This happened to kind of coincide with their announcement that they had the People's Cities of Sigmar book. So they're like, oh, look, we are announcing Cities of Sigmar book, which is kind of like circle all the wagons of all these old armies that were order armies and put them all together. And like the next day, they're like, oh, by the way, we're just slashing prices. Everything must go, right? Like we just chopped off the heads of a lot of these armies. So you know what's probably going to be there and what's not. Or you know certainly what's not.
Okay, yeah, I hate that book and everything it stands for. Why? They got rid of Glade Guard. The most fundamental unit to a Wood Elf army is gone. What? Okay, anyways.
You're so mad right now.
I am so mad.
It's so mad.
But okay, this also coincides with the release of the Kurnothi, which are like, it's a new Underworld season, and it's called Beastgrave.
They're in the starter.
And it seems like there's a Wood Elf thing and a Beastman thing. So it seems like the new interpretation of Wood Elves is going to be freaking horse people.
They're like centaurs and fawns and satyrs.
I want my Wood Elves. I don't want horse people.
Yeah,
I don't want tree people. I want Wood Elves.
This goes back to the IP issue from last episode.
Right, yes.
They can't make the bucks and protect the Wood Elves.
Right. I understand.
Because they stole from somebody else.
Right. I understand that, and it makes me sad. But that book, I said I hate everything it stands for, and let me explain why. I feel like this is the Scott show right now, because...
Scott show!
Whatever. Your stuff still is around. That book, okay, I don't give a crap about dwarves or Empire, even though I used to play Empire. I want my Wood Elf book that is all about Wood Elves, has all the lore in there about Wood Elves, and is big and fancy and special for Wood Elves. I don't give a crap about dwarves. Screw dwarves.
You are so racist.
Yes. I am fantasy racist.
I'm going to build a wall and make them pay for it.
That's going to be
dwarves are going to pay for it.
The thumbnail of this episode is going to have me with a speech bubble saying, I'm fantasy racist. I am.
I don't want to intermingling of the tribes.
Like, okay, come on. Like, if you played Night Haunt.
Yeah.
If your Night Haunt book had chaos crap in it and orc crap in it, would that make you feel like your
book is all order, though?
Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, there is the death.
So I couldn't have skeletons. I guess I already can. I have skeletons with my ghost.
That's what it feels like to me. Dwarves and elves are so different as orcs and zombies. Is that fair? They're not that. They hate each other in most lores, but they're in the same book together. That feels wrong to me.
Well, there's no orcs in your book.
No. I'm sorry.
Dwarves, like good guy dwarves,
and good guy humans, good guy elves. Those two are so similar as orcs are to zombies. That's why I said, imagine a book where you had chaos dudes, orcs in it, and vampire counts in it. And that was the book you had to buy for your army. Would that make you salty?
That'd make me salty.
Yeah.
That's not this book.
I know that's what it feels like it is to me.
All your stuff is order. They all have the same guiding principles.
Are you
Legions of Nagash?
You're not understanding this.
Legions of Nagash is all of the death stuff.
I'm not breaking through to you.
So ghost people don't like skeleton people, but they have to live together, just like.
But they're aesthetically similar.
Are skeletons and ghosts just aesthetically similar? Just
undead.
That's more racism.
No, they're evil. They're okay. So orcs,
you're
chaos,
all alive and good guys.
Orcs and chaos and undead. They're all evil. They have that underlying thing. Sure. Okay.
Orcs are destruction.
Shut up. But they're bad guys. They are bad guys. Okay. There might be some D&D nerds out there that are like, no, they're like chaotic neutral. Or like, shut up. They're bad guys. Okay. Dwarves and elves, they're good guys. Okay. Canonically, I get it. But they couldn't be further separated via aesthetics. Totally different things. Totally different.
J.R.R. Tolkien is the one who's making you say this.
I don't care.
And he is not a part of this fantasy world.
No, are you kidding me? He's very much so a part of this fantasy world.
Well, we can't control that IP, so he's not a part of this world anymore.
Okay, so the impression that I get from putting all this crap into a book is that they're like, okay, people care about this stuff. They still play it. Let's just give them a book and make them all happy at the same time. Instead of giving them the fancy treatment that everyone gets, which is everyone gets their own special book with their own special models, with their own special lore. No, I get this fucking vanilla book. What's a Cummers, one for everyone. No.
Well, there's based on which city you represent.
No, John. I
all
want
these different things happen.
a Wood Elf book.
Well,
I don't give a crap
I think
about dwarves.
You said I get that. I think the record states. Linda, read back the notes. I don't give a crap about dwarves. I only want wood elves. I think this is the way that you referenced prior about the chap from New Zealand, as you referenced him, about tying up those loose ends.
Yeah.
So if we have an up-to-date book that works within the rule system and the structure that we have for the rest of Age of Sigmar 2.0, then we can allow it to still live in whatever capacity we deem they are worthy.
Okay.
Without getting rid of them entirely, unlike Tomb Kings.
And I'd be just as mad if I was a Tomb King player. But it's a disrespectful inclusion. What they did prior was they included the stats for those units in the GHB, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the General's Handbook, which is like the yearly balance to Age of Sigmar, where they adjust the points and other various things about each unit, which is a great idea, but one that they totally lifted from other games. I don't care. It's a good idea. But now they're just removing the units. And okay, I get it. It makes sense.
At a certain point,
why
you
did it have to be mine?
At a certain point, you have to move on from the old game.
I should have f***ing played Space Marines.
Yeah.
Those weren't going anywhere.
You still could. You still could. All right. You want to hear another f***ed up thing about this? I'm going to drop some knowledge bombs on you.
God, am I going to get saltier?
Yeah. Probably not. But you're going to...
more fantasy racist?
You're gonna laugh. Okay. So... in the latest General's Handbook, so that just came out.
I'm scared.
They brought out a new system called mercenaries. And so what mercenaries are just like you could have ally points. So you as Wood Elves could ally in, 400 points in your 2,000 point army into Sylvaneth because they're your ally, or Stormcast or whatever. Okay. So they don't get all the benefits that your army gets, but they can be a part of your army. Okay. Mercenary system uses the same kind of point structure as allies, but they can be from anywhere. Any army can use these.
No, sir.
Okay, so for example, you as Wood Elves...
No, sir. Don't say it.
Could have a mercenary necromancer with skeletons.
Doesn't work for me.
Okay.
I love skeletons and necromancers, but not with my Wood Elves.
Okay. Follow me with the rest of this ride, because you're about to get your mind blown. Okay.
I don't want to.
Yeah. So one of... what was looked at as the actual best of the mercenary groups that you could take was from Free Peoples, the cannon and cannoneers and organ grinder guns.
Right.
Okay. Because they're like badass range shooter things.
Right.
A lot of armies can't deal with shooter things.
Right.
That just came out as an option in General's Handbook 19.
I hate this game.
Then 2 months later,
I hate this game.
Those mercenary units that they just added to the game just got cut.
Oh,
as
my gosh.
Part of the culling.
Are the teams that work on General's Handbook and who maintains the catalog of miniatures not talking to each other?
They must have had like vacations that just didn't work up.
What the heck?
Yeah.
First of all,
I
hate the mercenary thing. This is a me thing, very much so. But when I play an army, I need it to all be in the same thing. It can't even just look similar. It needs to be sold as the same army. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I can't buy High Elves for my Wood Elf army and paint the High Elves green. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. So there was this game made by Steamforged called God Tier. We played it at 2018 Adepticon.
Yeah.
I hate that game, not because it's bad. It has problems, but whatever. But I don't want to play it because your army or whatever, your squad consists of 2 God tier like armies or teams.
Yeah. And
they're aesthetically different. I can play with an orc and like an elf unit together, and that's my team. It's like, no. I want just the elves. I want just the orcs. I want just the dwarves. I don't want to mix. I hate mixing.
of the races.
It's something in my brain. It has nothing to do with real racism, okay? I want my thing to look like a cohesive unit, and part of my brain says if I can buy them together and they both have the same badge on them, they belong together. I don't understand, but I would never buy an organ gun for my wood elves. Never in a million years.
They have bows and arrows. They don't need it.
Right. I don't need no stupid human to help me with range stuff. I'm a freaking wood elf, but that's beyond the point. I would never mix the aesthetics. I don't like to do that.
I got it.
Okay, so I beat that to a dead horse.
We're
in the news segment still.
We just destroyed that news. Or you did.
Sorry.
Along with your reputation.
I had a lot of pent up rage. I don't play Age of Sigmar ever. I play it like once a year.
And I destroy you, and then you don't play it for a year.
Yes. I want to play it more. I don't have time to play it more, but
it's so good right now. The game is in such a good place.
Yeah, after having removed my entire army.
That's why it's in a good place.
How do I even play at this point?
You can
I have to paint a new army, don't I?
No, your army is still good.
For how long?
At least until General's Handbook 2020. Because it has all the points and all your stuff and all the rules.
Okay. So I better make the most of this then.
We'll see when that Armies or Cities of Sigmar book comes out and see what that does. To see if that maybe there's some like Kobayashi Maru. What's that?
Kobayashi Maru?
Kobayashi Maru.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, where there's a no-win situation that you turn into a win.
Okay.
You have to just like, it involves you like throwing your army into a wood chipper, and then with the plastic scraps, we forge you an army anew.
Yeah. It's like that guy who burned his entire Dark Elf army when Age of Sigmar came out. Remember that?
I don't, but I will believe you that is a thing.
He made a video on YouTube lighting them all on fire. And they're mostly painted.
He's
an idiot because, like, at the very least, Dark Elves got, like, a new Age of Sigmar army. Sisters of Cain.
Or Daughters of Cain?
Daughters of Cain?
Yeah.
Whatever. They got the treatment. They got the treatment. I didn't get the treatment.
Yeah. Oh, no, Dark Elves are different than Daughters of Cain.
They are, but in the past, a segment of Dark Elf army was the Canaanites.
Yeah.
Just like in my army, a section of it was Forest Spirits, which then became Sylvaneth.
Oh, snap.
So people are like, Scott, you got a new Wood Elf thing. It's like, shut up. I got the Tree People, okay? I like the Tree People for a little bit of extra variety, but I liked the actual Wood Elves.
Yeah, you like the army of elves with like one giant tree spirit running around. That's cool.
And a unit of like big tree boys, you know, like whatever, like a little bit of spice in there. But okay, anyways, enough about that.
Are you sure that's enough?
That is enough.
We need some more of that spicy sausage.
Welcome to the show after the show. We still have no name for this. I like the phrase "last stand." That's kind of fun. It's a callback to Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Your last stand was something a unit made before it died in combat. But this is the show after the show, and the first thing we do is we talk about a model that we liked recently. We link it in the show notes. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. This is a model. I only know his Instagram name. In the middle, FFF.
Yes.
And in between each of those words is an underscore. And this dude is the texture captain.
Yes, he is.
Texture captain, right? Yeah, of like the A squad varsity texture team. He is the texture captain. The dude starts building texture with the base coat. Like he puts texture like 3 steps before everyone else is texturing.
Yes.
Which is how he earned his, textured Letterman jacket.
Oh man, this keeps going.
Yeah, we're just gonna go with this. He does a lot of Nurgle stuff.
Yeah. He has a color palette he sticks to.
Yeah, he does definitely have a style and sticks in his wheelhouse. But he's one of those painters where I can look at their paintings and be like, I would know it's him.
Yep.
Without it being with his name on it associated
100%.
with it, which I think is super, super cool. So this one I'm sharing here is a Squig Rider, which is not kind of his usual stuff. He's been doing a little bit more of these kind of works lately, but there's just micro textures everywhere. There's just nothing is completely smooth, and yet there's no lines showing any of the layer building, or it's just smooth transition still into the shadows, and yet everything feels like you could touch it and it would feel like a different surface. I really like how he does wood. It's like the lance.
Wood is good. He has this very desaturated green he does with the magenta shadow. And that always looks really nice. The skin of the goblin is a little off-putting. Everything is so it's so desaturated. Like the lance of the goblin is so desaturated. Right. But then the only thing is this super bright green skin.
Yeah,
it seems a little out of place.
It's like he doesn't fit in that world.
Yeah, and maybe he's doing it so he can like draw attention or make it look different than the squig. But it's almost, for me, a little bit too different. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I actually think even the silver on the armor might be a little bit too shiny.
Okay, I don't feel that way. I disagree with you there.
Okay, but and I guess it is the only real reflective, other than the eye thing on the squig, which does have a very similar reflective style. But yeah, that green, especially when there's greens elsewhere on this piece that are desaturated, and then this one jumps out. But overall, I just love his style. Every time he posts something new, I just think it's super cool.
Yeah. I also follow this guy on Instagram. He's great. He is great.
All right, what do you got, sir?
Okay. I have Albert Mortu font. Probably Albert Moreto font. Have you seen this model?
Not until just now.
Okay. This guy is the king, not even the captain. He is the king of smooth. This model, and I don't know, okay, maybe not the king of smooth, maybe the king of softness. Okay? If we just for a second just look at the dwarf's arm that has the axe in it, all of these just transitions from highlight to shadow, in the metal, in the skin tone, in his hat thing up there too. I'm looking at the hat thing. It's so soft looking. And I don't know why. This is one of those times where you look at something and it's like, I actually can't replicate that if I tried. A lot of times, and this comes from being an egomaniac, and John probably understands this. It's like you go to IKEA and you look at a dresser and you're like, I can build that. I don't need to buy it from these idiots.
Right.
But I look at this model and it's like, if I tried and I had this exact same model, I would come nowhere near this. I don't understand how he gets the softness in each volume of this dwarf's bicep, but I love it. And it's something that I think no one else does right now as well as this guy that I know of. What do you feel this, or do I feel this? You can pinch zoom on Instagram, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, here's my thing with it. I felt a very similar way with pieces that we've seen at Crystal Brush, that in person, that veil was lifted. And I could tell that it's not as flawless as it appeared in the pictures.
This is photo magic, you're saying this?
I'm not claiming that it is. I'm saying that the naked eye, in inspecting it in my hand for what I could deconstruct to then be able to replicate, may be different.
Okay.
But you are absolutely right. I look at this thing and I don't get it. I get that this is the size of like a lawn gnome and it was all airbrushed. Then I could understand.
This is all paintbrush.
And that if it was, an 18-inch tall figure and it was all airbrushed, I could see how to accomplish this. Right. I cannot see how to accomplish this tiny with an airbrush, right, or with a paintbrush.
Right. And so if you guys are following along with us and you're looking at these pictures, look at the dwarf's axe. So the flat of the axe, and people always struggle with flats of axes. They're always just like mostly black. I've noticed this. People will oftentimes like hedge and make it like, if it's like a rusty axe, the whole flat of the axe will be just rust and the edge will be shiny. And that's because painting the flat of an axe is like painting a mirror. It's not easy to pull off. So they'll just paint it all black or paint it all rusty. But the one thing I want to call it is the little glows. So he has areas along the edge where a bright spot will occur, and that bright spot leaks over onto the flat of the axe.
That's a new thing now.
It is. It gives it a little sparkle. It's actually not too new. Banshee did it a long time ago in that one Marvel character who's like all metal. Who's that? Who's the guy in Deadpool? Who's Deadpool's friend?
Colossus.
There's Colossus models, and if you look back,
Yeah.
you can see Banshee, and he did that a little bit, but we don't see it a lot.
No.
And so when I see this, I love those little if you zoom out and you look at it, it's super zoomed in. It's like a nice little sparkle right in the X.
Yeah, it creates it creates an illusion of a 3D sparkle of light
Yeah, like a
On the
like a
surface.
lens flare almost.
on the surface.
Like the lights reflecting off of it right into the camera.
Yeah.
And I love it. That's a great thing. But yeah, the thing when I look at this model, it's just like, holy smooth Batman. Like, holy soft. How'd you do that? It's amazing. I love it.
It aesthetically doesn't pleases me at all, but from an artistic perspective, it looks super, super impressive.
The crown is weird.
Yeah.
It's like, are you a Joker?
The model itself doesn't really appeal to me even, but
That's fine. That's fine.
it's just so smooth. I'm just like, it doesn't.
I don't see. You think it's inappropriately smooth?
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't think it is. I don't know why. I think if you zoom in all the way to the skin, there is micro texture when it transitions from the midtone to the shadow.
Yep.
So he has that texture in there, and also on the metal too in a lot of areas. But it still looks smooth. Maybe that's just the compression of like Instagram and the photo and stuff like that. I don't know.
That's what makes me wonder.
Okay. That's my model.
Dang,
son. Okay.
We got some models in here.
Now we're going to move on to the next part of the extended podcast, the executive cut, the after show, the last stand, whatever we're going to call this whenever we figure out. We're going to do a patron critique. And this, again, is one of my personal patrons because we are recording this before we actually have any.
We may never have any.
Right. This one is, his name is Jake. And he painted a Cataphracti, I believe it's called, Terminator.
Is this like 30K then?
This is 30K, yeah.
Okay,
this is
Cataphracti's a 30K thing, I think.
Right.
Okay.
And I cracked on the last guy first, so why don't you go first this time?
All right. So, oh gosh, I didn't think about this.
Okay, I'll go first. Base rim, it's gray. I hate that. Make it black. Just kidding. I don't like the green shoulder guard. This model has a shoulder guard, and it's green, and it just doesn't fit in the scheme of this model at all for me.
Why do they have shoulder guards? That was a night thing for
because
jousting.
they joust, right? Yeah, exactly. I don't understand because it looks cool. I'm fine with that. Rule cool. If it looks cool, include it.
I don't. I think it looks absolutely derpy as shit. I don't think it looks cool at all.
I think it's another little bit of extra detail. You know what I'm saying? But I get it if like this is like the scheme of your army. You need to include grass green somewhere.
Goblin green.
I'm just saying like this is the color like a very vibrant green.
Yeah, it looks like
maybe it is goblin green. The entire paint job, other than the plasma, is like a desaturated color. So the thing I just keep staring at is this stupid like armpit shoulder guard thing, and it looks totally out of place. And I wish it was a different, more in theme color. That's the first thing I think.
Okay, so how about this? Let's riff on this.
Riff.
He needs it to be that color because it's a part of his army.
Oh, I know you fix this.
How do you still use that color but make it fit with the rest of the more desaturated desaturated theme? Desaturated scheme.
It's like scatting and saturation put together. Easy. Green is a very special color because green can be a warm tone and it can be a cold tone. So the easy way you fix this is you make that green evergreen. You make it blue. You mix blue into it. You keep enough for it to be green, but you also add in some to link it into the color scheme. And Marc Masclon, who is or I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's a Spanish painter. He's associated with the Volumir.com website, but all those guys work together. But he has this article on Volumir.com, but it's about harmony. And one thing he does is he takes a harmonization color and he mixes it into everything in his palette, and he feels like that draws it together more.
Is that a brilliant idea?
Is that an old wives' tale? I don't know if it actually works, but it would work here for sure because that green would be drawn into that coldness a little bit more. Now, that isn't to say that everything in your scheme needs to be a cold tone or a warm tone. You can mix the two.
We talked about that in contrast earlier, too.
Yeah.
Warm and cold.
But in this case, since there only is one green thing on this model that I can see, I can't see the back of the model right now. Since there's only one green thing, it's like there's nothing else that gives this green purpose or belonging. It's just strange that it's there.
I think we, in our act of trying to find one thing and to talk on it and for areas to improve, I think that's our target here.
There's not one other thing you want to say about the base?
Fucking cork.
Fucking cork.
Hey, Scott, can you guess what that base is made out of?
Is it cork?
I think it's cork.
I think it's cork.
You know how I can tell?
How can you tell?
It looks like fucking cork.
So, right. If you're going to use cork, that's fine. You can bulk up a thing with cork, but just hide those damn edges.
Yeah.
Because it looks like cork, not like rock.
I get the first mini second mini that I painted. I did basically this. And for the first time you do it and you put paint on it, you're like, holy crap, that looks kind of good. But the problem is that everybody that looks at your minis has some experience with mini painting, and they immediately say, that doesn't look like a piece of asphalt. They say, that looks like a freaking cork.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because like it's all equal in width.
Mm-hmm.
And all the edges look the same. Mm-hmm. And the top is flat. It's like it all looks so similar, and nature is so varied that it doesn't all look like this. I guess it could work for like asphalt, because asphalt is
Cracked asphalt.
Yeah, that could work sometimes.
But it's so rare that like
occurs naturally.
Post-apocalyptic scenario.
Right, yeah.
All of my minis just walk on the post-apocalyptic freeways of broken asphalt. That's all they do.
Right.
So that's why all their bases look like this.
Yeah, so yeah, we're a little cork salty.
Yeah, we are.
All right, that's the end of the extended segment of the podcast. Thank you for being a patron. And now we'll cut back to the outro. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of the podcast, guys. I hope you enjoyed our conversation about painting competitions and how they can improve, and also the news segment, and also what we painted for this past 2 weeks. If you guys like our podcast and you want to support it, you can support us in a variety of ways. One is buying some merch, linked in the show notes. You can see John's wearing it right now with our Trapped Under Plastic logo if you're watching the video version of the podcast. Or you can support us on Patreon. All things linked in the description below, the show notes below. This is not a YouTube video. Well, I guess it is for some of you. But if you were a patron, this show goes on from here. We have an extended segment where we talk about our favorite miniature of the week and why we like it. And we also give feedback to one of our patrons. We deep dive into it. But for now, the show is going to end. Any final words, John?
Scott's a racist.
I'm fantasy racist. And with that, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.